Here are today's episode highlights.
Marzo con M de mujer. Comadres, are you guys ready to introduce the one and only, our beloved, our LA girl, Patty Rodriguez?
Yes!
Rodriguez!
And on such a special month.
Right?
Like Women's Month, right?
Yeah.
This is
Yes.
actually perfect.
And let's take it to maybe what little Patty was like and how did she get to Ryan Seacrest?
And I'm like, this is now or never for me.
Okay.
I'm like, now or never. And I can feel my body just shaking because I was so afraid of the next words that were going to come out of my mouth.
So how does Patty end up being the senior producer and the voice of the Latinas?
Talent.
And Latinos in general on Kiss FM.
When I heard your voice, Patty, that Latina voice that I identified with, I was so freaking happy. I'm like, oh my God, someone like me.
All these men who are telling you, these probably white men that are telling you like your voice is not what we want it to be because they are driving this.
But like, I can't even
predominantly male.
understand her. I don't even know what she's saying.
Oh my gosh.
gosh.
If radio is your life, your first love per se in your professional career, and you feel this cariño infinito, why did you leave radio?
I never imagined this company growing the way it is now. Little Libros, the children's publishing company.
Little Libros! I love it. We love it.
They're
Little
so
Libros.
cute.
If you don't have
thank
Little
you.
Libros
Beautiful.
in your house, you are not Latina.
And I see all these fire trucks on my block.
Oh no.
And I'm like, oh, what's happening?
Ni por aquí.
No idea. Keep driving, and I'm like, holy sh**. They're in front of my house.
Oh.
¡Qué vergüenza! Me hubiera muerto yo
Sí.
en la casa ahí y no le dejo ni un cinco a mi hijo. I'm not breaking any generational curses here.
Can I ask a personal question?
Yes.
Are you a single mom? I want to know because it sounds like you're raising these amazing boys.
The dream hasn't ended. It continues with you. The dream that your great grandmother had, and it didn't end. You're carrying the baton.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey girl, welcome! We've been waiting for you.
Bienvenida. We are four comadres, and we are so excited to have you here. I am Argelia.
I am Mindy.
I am Diana.
And I'm Janet.
This is Comadres Unfiltered. ¡Salud! ¡Qué gusto verlas!
Yeah.
Such a blessing to see you, ladies guapas. I need the drink. Again, we do not know what's in here. Only God knows. Diosito, y con eso basta. ¿Cómo estamos?
We're good.
How are we doing?
Great.
We're doing
Great.
good. Huh?
March has started off great.
I'm feeling very good today. Super. And I think it has to do with the fact that it's our month. You know,
Women's Month.
Of course, we've been celebrating Women's Month since obviously March 1st. Marzo con M de mujer, obviously. And in the special Women's Month episode, we couldn't be happier to launch our officially our celebration because we have a powerhouse today. She's a trailblazer in media, publishing, entrepreneur, obviously, from shaping pop culture on Everybody Has Heard on air with Ryan Seacrest. Well, guess what? She made that happen. And yes, I will say that because she took it to a whole other level. And that is a fact. And she has spent pretty much all her life championing just women's rights, community efforts, and just unstoppable. She's a mom. She's a social media influencer. She's an author. She's a cineasta. I mean, there's so many titles to her. But comadres, are you guys ready to introduce the one and only, our beloved, our LA girl, Patty Rodriguez.
Yes!
I'm here today.
Hi.
Hi, Quintita, comadre.
Thank you all for having me. It's I know we've been trying to make this work, and here we are now, and I'm so happy and excited. I love the energy, I love the vibe, and I'm just so glad to be here.
Oh, we're happy to have you.
Do you like our room?
I love your studio. It's a beautiful studio.
Thank you. We're so excited. Yes, I'm so happy that you said that because, yes, we've been trying to get her for a while, but obviously we know how busy life is and you are with so many hats. You know, you're juggling so many things at the same time. But you know what? I was telling you before the shoot started, it was meant to be for us to finally make it happen this month in 2025. Because we've been trying to get her since last year, okay? Y no es que se haga el rogar porque no, Patty, you're just everywhere. And it's like, where do I fit you in, right? And I will always thank you for that honesty when you're like, I can't. Like, like you were booked. because people want you on their platforms, and it's so understandable. So, but I'll never forget that you came back to me and said, what day next year, was that 2025, and I will be there.
Yeah.
And that is happening today. So thank you.
And on such a special month.
Right?
Like Women's Month, right?
Yeah.
This is
Yes.
actually perfect
It was meant
to have
be.
Patty today. That's awesome.
And I know we're all excited because ya te conocía through radio, obviously. We'll talk a little bit about that. But the girls know you, obviously. But this is a special day.
Yes.
You have so many hats, as Argelia just like talked about. I mean, I almost want to know, I want to start there. You know, if you can chat a little bit about how that came about. You know, you were on Ryan Seacrest. So maybe let's take it a little bit before that. And let's take it to maybe what little Patty was like and how did she get to Ryan Seacrest?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was 16 years old when it happened.
You were in high school.
Yeah, I was in high school,
my goodness.
And I've always loved pop culture, entertainment. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. I loved the art of storytelling, and that's through music, film, writing, and listening to Kiss FM growing up. It always felt like that was like the pinnacle station, the pinnacle of entertainment in LA. And I was a huge fan of NSYNC. Me and my girlfriends were. We still are.
Yes,
We still are.
yes.
And they were giving away tickets to NSYNC. Rick D's. It's way past.
So that means that you're not a Gen Z. No, you're not a Gen X.
I'm a millennial.
You're a millennial.
I'm a millennial. Yes.
The NC gave it away.
Like,
Yeah.
por ahí, you know?
Yeah, and they were giving away tickets on the morning show to see NSYNC, and my girlfriends and I plotted an idea of me driving my mom's car to Burbank to see if we can get tickets to NSYNC. My mom was a single mom at that time. We only had one car, and I went to my mom, and I had to come up with a lie, essentially. I couldn't tell her the truth and say, I want to get tickets to see NSYNC. She'd be like, "Estás loca. I'm not going to let you borrow the car for that." So I said, "Mom, I have to take a zero period class. So I need to wake up a little bit earlier. I don't want to walk to school. It's still dark out at that time. Can you please let me borrow your car?" And that meant that she had to take the bus to work. Wow. So I don't suggest anyone lying to your parents.
It will get you places.
NSYNC tickets?
But
Unless you have NSYNC tickets to get, right?
and now looking back, I feel so bad, but I also like it, just like the power and the love of your mother, right? She's like, you know what? I'll take the bus. I don't want you to walk. You can take the car to school, quote unquote. So I picked up my girlfriends that morning, like at 5 a.m., and we drove to Burbank.
Oh, that was early.
And we go up the elevators. We have no idea what we're doing, no idea what's happening. All we know is that we're going to ask for NSYNC tickets. And we go up to the receptionist, and this wonderful young woman, she could have kicked us out. She could have said, "Go back to school. What are you guys doing here?"
Yeah, because what time was this?
This was like 6 a.m. by the time we got there. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So first, the security in the lobby, allowed us up the elevator. So that was like the first wall. We broke through
First
it.
barrier.
Yeah, we broke through it, and then we go up the elevator, and then we're like, we have our second barrier.
Okay.
This is the receptionist, and I go up to her and I said, "Look, we're from Linwood. We ditched school to come here because we want tickets to see NSYNC." And she could have just had a bad day. She could have just been like, "You guys have to go back to school. We're not."
Or I'm calling your parents.
Yeah, like we don't give away tickets to walk-ins, right? But there was, I don't know, she connected with us, and she's like, "You know what? Let me call the studio in the back."
Okay.
It's okay, the second barrier.
Okay, ya le hiciste.
Okay.
Vamos bien, vamos
Getting
bien.
closer. Getting
Then,
closer.
about 15 minutes passed, and then a producer walks out from one of the big doors. Okay, third barrier. And he's like, how can I help you ladies? And we're like, "We're from Linwood High. We ditched school because we heard that you guys have tickets to NSYNC, and we want to see how we can win them." And he's like, "Okay, let me come back and see what I can do." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, he's going to come back and say no." He came back, we waited. He's like, "Okay, how about you guys come to the back of the studio, and we play a game live on the air?" And I'm like, we're looking at each other. We're like, this cannot be real.
You're gonna be on.
We're gonna be live on the air.
Oh my God.
And then, like,
What a dream.
It was. Yo me acuerdo lo que me puse. Me puse una faldita, a pencil skirt, a cute little shirt. I had my cute little like wedge heels. You know, it was like a thing. Wedge heels.
Yes.
Yeah. My Jordana lip liner. I was like, we were all dressed up, super cute. Like super cute.
That's a Latina thing.
Yes,
We
like,
dress up.
Yeah,
We dress
like
up.
we had our earring. Yes, we're super
remember
cute.
that.
And we walk, and I'm walking down the hallway, and I'm just like, I can't believe this. This is a dream. I dreamt of this moment.
Yeah.
And I see the posters, Ricky Martin there, and Sing posters, and I'm just like, this is where I said, this is where I belong. That's what I said to myself.
Really?
And we go, and then we walk into the studio with Rick Dees, and we play the game. We're live on the air, and I wish I had that recording somewhere. I don't know where it is, but we win the tickets.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Do you remember the dynamic? Like, what did he make you do or say?
He was just, teasing us, saying, where are you guys from? We're from Linwood. We just ditched. And, and it was just so much fun. And we win the tickets, and we're taking pictures with everybody. And the producer, Ruben Rodriguez, he walks us out. And he's like, let me get, he asked me, do you have a parking pass? I'm like, yeah, we do. He's like, let me get that validated for you. It's almost as if like the Red Sea just parted for us.
Yeah.
It was like everything was just happening just perfectly. And then the elevator opens, the last elevator door opens. And I'm like, this is now or never for me.
Okay.
I'm like, now or never. And I can feel my body just shaking because I was so afraid of the next words that were going to come out of my mouth. Are you guys hiring?
Te aventaste.
Wow.
I was so scared. I was only 16.
Wow.
But look at what you said.
How brave.
That's why I guess your motto is sin miedo.
Yeah, I was so scared. And I blurted it out. And he said, how old are you? I'm like, well, I'm 16. He's like, well, you're too young. You're still in high school. But why don't you give me your number? And if anything ever opens up, I'll call you. And I'm thinking like, been there, done that. This dude just wants to, be funny,
Yeah.
2 weeks later, he calls me and he's like,
Wow.
we're going on vacation and I need someone to come and help answer phones while we're on vacation.
Okay.
Can you come and do it?
Wow.
And I said, you're kidding. And I'm like, yes. And I don't have a car. And I hung up and I'm like, I have to lie to my mom again.
How am I going to get to work?
Here we
How
go.
am I going to get to work?
Wow. And that's you
And
getting
that
your
was-
foot in the door.
And that was it.
Yeah, that was it.
Did you even know you were going to ask that question when you walked in? Did
No.
you know I know.
No.
It just happened in
I
that
think
moment when you were
God
walking.
just tapped me and said,
Yeah.
You
I
belong here.
I got
Yeah.
you here.
Yes.
You can't leave. Like this is like you're not going to have this opportunity again.
Te dejaste
Yeah.
llevar por el
Yeah.
momento.
You're
You
there.
felt it. You even said yourself, you felt it. You're like, this is the dream and this is where I want to be. But okay, talking about, we want to talk about your journey. And obviously, una cosa is that, toque de suerte, we could say. The universe conspired, right? But another thing is you prove yourself. Okay, now the foot's in the door. I am here answering phones. How does that 16-year-old get to be on air later with the Ryan Seacrest?
My story, I after my internship, I did 3 years of internship, which is a whole other story. And it was because I was afraid to say I am doing this for free. And I was afraid they were going to say, oh shit. Sorry, can I say that?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Oh shit.
Wait, they weren't paying
You don't belong here.
But they weren't paying you.
No.
So you were answering phones for free.
I was doing everything for free. I was picking up coffee. I was cleaning offices. I was saying whatever you need. I was doing it for free.
the old school way.
old school way.
Paying your dues.
Yes.
How we grew up,
And-
right?
But I
Pay
wasn't
your
thinking
dues.
about like I wasn't thinking about I'm paying my dues. It wasn't that. It was just like I'm just happy to be here.
blessed.
Like this, I don't need to get paid ever.
Yeah.
That was my like, I
You're
don't
so
ever
happy.
need to get paid. Like I can do this for free. I wake up every morning so happy at 4:30 in the morning,
Yeah.
and I get in the car and I'm just so happy to do this. I don't need to get paid.
You're like, just give me concert tickets.
Yes.
Come
Yeah,
on,
I'm like,
pay me
I'm
with
just-
concert tickets and
I'm
meet and
just
greets.
here.
Exactly, meet and greets.
And
I'm
I was
good.
going to school at Cerritos College, and I had a job at JCPenney selling shoes, and then I got a job, a part-time job at the Warehouse Music Store.
Oh, my
So
God.
I was like, like, I'm good. I have a job.
Yeah.
You're so cool.
Like I bought a car, like my little Corolla. I bought it, and I was just like, I don't need to get paid. Like, this is so cool. I already have a job. Like, it all works out. So I ended up interning for 3 years, and that was because out of fear of saying, if I say they have to start paying me, they're gonna be like, well, we don't need you.
Maybe a lot of people didn't even know that you weren't being paid.
Know.
Exactly.
They didn't know.
Because that's very common. Well, not anymore.
Right.
But
Not
back
anymore.
in the day, when I started radio in 2001, I had two, 3 people that I saw on the daily. I was like, oh, yeah, when is your contract due? Yo vengo de gratis. A mí nadie me paga. And I'm like,
Wow.
Oh my
excuse me?
gosh. Yeah.
That's the love and passion for
Yes,
radio.
yes.
Es que una vez alguien me dijo, bueno, de hecho fue Pepe Barreto. Well, you know Pepe
Yes,
Barreto.
I do.
Pepe Barreto. We all grew
Yes.
up with him.
Legend.
He the first thing he told me when I walked into radio, I had already started my career in TV, Telemundo. And I'll never forget his words. And he was so absolutely 100% correct. Me dijo, RG. Bueno, me decía RG. Me decía, mira, RG. En la tele, la gente te quiere. Pero en la radio, la gente te ama. Y lo más bonito es que tú vas a amar más la radio que la tele.
Sí.
Really?
And I was like, because I'm still double dipping.
Yeah.
I'm still working in Telemundo and I'm doing radio. And I was like,
El que
I'm
sabe,
just going to
¿verdad?
do radio for a year just because it was an iconic station,
Yeah.
Caleb.
Yeah.
And it's when I grew up on with my mom. I want to make my mom proud. Mira, ma, soy en la radio, en la tu estación. You're going to hear me every morning. But he was absolutely right. Because what happened with my career later? I said bye to TV and I stayed on radio because I truly fell in love with radio and I fell in love with the man.
Yeah.
And I married the guy. I married the DJ. But at the end, I chose radio.
There's no connection like it with anything.
There's no connection, and that's what you felt.
Yeah.
Y por eso dijiste, a los 10 años, de aquí soy. Y de aquí no me voy. So how does Patty end up being the senior producer and the voice of the Latinas and Latinos in general on Kiss FM?
How was the
How does
transition?
that happen?
Yeah.
How did you make that jump? I
Again,
know it wasn't easy.
It's a similar story to that moment with, with NSYNC when I was 16. I had already gotten hired at Kiss. I was doing street team. And then I went to my boss and I was like, I can't do the street team. I'm a little too shy. I could do office. I can work at the office here.
So wait, you never wanted to be on air at the time?
No, I didn't want to be a street teamer, driving the van.
But the fact that you said I'm a little too shy is a huge contradiction.
It's a contradiction because I think what was happening is I wasn't believing in my potential. I was suppressing my authenticity and who I really was. Imposter syndrome. Just make yourself small and life will figure itself out. That was my mentality at that time. So there was 2 parts of me that were fighting, which was like this part of me that wanted more, and wanting to achieve my dreams. And the other part was like, you know what, just lay low. Don't shuffle too many feathers and things will work out, right? So I went to my boss and I was like, I don't want to do street team. I want to work at the office. And he's like, great, come here 3 times a week doing clerical work here at the office. At that same time, Ryan was transitioning from doing his morning show at Hollywood and Highland because he had a TV show at the same time.
Yeah.
And he was transitioning his studio to the headquarters studios.
Yeah.
And they hired a new producer, executive producer for him.
Okay.
And my boss gave me a desk, a cubicle in the most perfect place. Again, it's God. It's all God.
See?
It was in the corner cubicle where the promotions department and programming department crossed.
Okay.
So you would have folks from programming and promotions. When they would walk, they would cross and then they would meet there and they would stay there and chat.
Okay.
And you were right there.
I was right there in this intersection.
right there in the intersection.
So my
That's
boss is
awesome.
walking out of his office when Ryan's new boss is walking toward my boss, and they intersect right in my cubicle. And I'm eavesdropping on their conversation.
You're like,
Exactly what you're doing. That's exactly my ears perked up.
I love it.
And I hear Ryan's new producer, Dennis Clark, telling my boss, hey, I am looking for someone that speaks Spanish that can help the morning show with answering phones while I find a permanent producer. Just right now for a transition. Do you know anyone in your team that would be willing to help, but also has to speak Spanish. My arms and my palms are sweating, and I'm like, God, you couldn't, like, are you like joking with me,
Estás
God?
pasando.
Yeah, like, it's like, God, you're too much. So I'm like, they walk away, and I'm like, I'm shaking in my computer, and I'm like, I have to find the words to go to my boss and say, I speak Spanish. I can come in at whatever time you need me to come in, and I will do it. Before I got out of my seat, he's right in front of me, and he says, hey, Patty.
No. That's awesome.
Do you think you can come in earlier for a few weeks and go help Brian's team? You're the only one that speaks Spanish, and they need someone who's a Spanish speaker. I was just like, absolutely. I am here tomorrow at 4 a.m.
Oh my God.
Wow.
In a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat.
Ni lo pensaste.
I didn't even have to move a finger.
No. You know how hard it is to get it to.
You know why? Because you moved a lot of fingers. Before that. That's why.
Yeah.
You put yourself in that position. You said yes. You put yourself in that elevator, in that room. You said yes. And you interned for 3 years.
Yes.
You said yes.
Exactly.
So it is a coincidence that all those things happen, but you've put yourself there.
I see it now, and it makes sense. It's like, even though I was afraid, I was so nervous to speak up. My voice was shaking, thinking about what I was going to tell my boss, like, choose me, or I can do it. And I was like, it's now or never. That was always like, it's now or never.
Yes.
It's not.
It's almost like those 3 years prepped you for that moment, right?
Yeah,
That's so awesome.
it was, and that was it. It was supposed to be a position, me helping for 2 weeks.
¿Y qué pasó?
And I found the courage to talk to Dennis Clark.
Yes.
And I said, Dennis, I know you're still looking for someone. My voice was shaking, but I want the opportunity. I want you to I want this position. I will do whatever it takes. I told him, I will pick coffee. I will bring it. I will bring breakfast. I was like, I will clean your office, whatever it takes, but I know I can do it. I had no idea what I was doing.
You know what? And
No
that's what-
idea.
I want to stop you right
That,
there
I know.
because one of the things that make you so special and unique, Patty Rodriguez, is that you're an example, an epitome of you representing Latina women because there's a lack of representation. So the fact, what year is this? I mean,
This is 2005.
2005. You know what that was looking like in the general market. So the fact that you are putting yourself out there, knowing that you are the only face, all of a sudden, on the morning show, Kiss FM, porque no hay Latinas. So you become like that new face for the people that are listening. So of course on the radio, we're like, wait, what? That girl sounds like me.
Oh my goodness.
So that's why you connected so well with your people, but that's not secret. But they discovered that. So ahí empieza tu movimiento. That's where your movement starts of championing representation for Latinas and women in general, but more so people like us.
And is that when you started on the air?
No. I was
You
just
worked your way to that.
I was a phone producer.
Yeah.
But you need allies, and that's at that time I had Dennis Clark, who was a producer at that time, who understood the value of a voice like mine in Ryan's show. If it wasn't for him understanding it and seeing it, it wouldn't have happened the way it did. So it's sad that to this day we need champions, right?
Right.
To see the value.
Yes.
To see the demographic.
Yeah, and
That's exactly right.
That's what it is.
You know, we're like 50-60% Latino
That's right.
in LA.
I would say more. I would say,
And maybe even more.
Yeah.
And so having representation
How valuable
matters.
that is.
Yeah.
It just
Exactly.
matters. It's just good money decisions.
And more in that industry because it's still male dominated. Honestly, I still flip through I'm so happy that I hear more female voices. But honestamente, it's still very much male driven. But back in the day, it was
even more so.
even more so. And always the bosses are male.
Yeah.
The lead person on the radio is
Usually male.
He's a male star, and la mujer is a sidekick, or the producer, or the assistant to the producer,
Yeah.
or the one answering the phones.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge. So I know that it hasn't been easy for you. I know that people are like, oh, Patty, she made it. Yeah, she made it. But we want to talk about those challenges.
No, blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah. I bet there were days where you're like,
I wanted
What
to
the
quit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to having people that that value you. And I found that a lot with Ryan. He's one of the greatest hosts, entertainers, businessmen in this industry. But I think honestly, if it wasn't for Ryan, I would have been gone a long time ago. I worked with him for 17 years.
Unbelievable.
And all of it had to do because of him.
Can I ask you something maybe? But aquí se puede hablar de todo. And if you don't want to answer, it's okay. Él metió las manos al fuego por ti en el sentido that people wanted you
Oh,
out?
absolutely. Many, many, many times. Wow. There was so many. I didn't start wanting to be a talent.
Okay.
I don't think that was ever a dream of mine. It was always like, I just want to be here. I want to
Behind the scenes.
I want to be behind the scenes. I want to build. I want to create. I want to talk about these amazing stories that are in our city, and I want to champion that, and that's what made me happy. But Ryan started seeing, and I think he started seeing the value of my voice slowly. And then, as you know, Argelia, then there's testing and there's focus groups and they're who's that voice, and we love her more.
So a focus group is when they go, the stations pay a lot of money, and I'm talking thousands of dollars for a focus group where they hire, well, not hire, but they pay people to come and listen to a show. And so they put on a show, a segment, and people raise volume when they like a segment or they like the voice. And they'll turn it down when they don't like the segment.
It's like an audition.
But,
sort of.
The audience is determining and measuring what they like or not like.
Criticizing
Right.
segment.
And these are real people.
Real
people.
listeners.
Yeah, these are not
We
so
call them
people.
P1s.
P1s. So what
Yes,
happened
they're
when
like
they
our
would
real
hear-
hardcore listeners.
Yes.
Thank you, P1s. Yes. So when they would hear Patty, el volumen subía, which is a great sign for programming.
For
And
programming.
for the on-air talent wanting to, I'm going to say it, hike up those ratings.
Yeah.
If we're dipping, we need a focus group. What's not working
What's
here?
missing?
Right.
So what's missing? And the only way to find out is through focus groups. So I love that the fact that they started to test you.
Yeah, they
And
started
obviously
testing
that
me,
worked.
and I started. They would come back, and here's the thing: at the time, the programming boss did not want me at all. He said my voice was not one for radio.
Wow.
And I think for many years I believed that too, and I was hesitant to share my authentic self on the air because of that. Even despite of my team, like Ryan and the team telling me we need more of you, I am gonna fight for you, and that's what Ryan did constantly. And it was like whatever she wants, give it to her.
Wow.
And it was a constant fight, and it put me in the middle, and I felt vulnerable, and I felt not good enough. And it's like if I'm testing high, then what is it about me then that why don't you want me on the air if your listeners do?
Yeah.
So it was always like, I'm not good enough then. And it was always it was always tears, and I'd go home and I'm like, you know what, I should just quit. Wow. And there was times when I would find myself like looking for other jobs. It's like I'm like this is literally feels like I'm in an abusive relationship. That's how it felt.
Wow.
But I would remember, like Ryan would get on the phone with me and he's like, don't you worry. I got your back. We want you. We want your voice. We want you to, keep the microphone. And that was it. It was constant. It was.
And during that time, it must have been just those internal conflicts, right? Because now you're this young kid from Linwood who's now at Kiss FM. You're at the mecca of pop culture. You have all these people, all these men who are telling you, these probably white men that are telling you like your voice is not what we want it to be because they are driving this.
But like I can't even understand her. I don't even know what she's saying.
Oh my gosh.
You know what?
Your accent.
I believe you.
And I would literally, like, it wasn't hearsay. I would, the people would show me emails from this boss.
Oh my goodness.
And I would read it.
Oh,
and I was
awful.
like, what am I still doing here? Like it's like, and then I'm like, that part of me of like, that girl, it was just like, you know what? I'm going to prove them wrong. You know what? I don't even want to prove them wrong.
You're proving
I'm going to prove myself wrong.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that is a beautiful message for everyone. We're always trying to prove our parents, even our partners. Like, I can do this. Soy mujer y puedo con todo. And even though we're currently, oh shit, can I do it? I'm going to prove you that I can multitask, right? our bosses. But at the end of the day, it's you in the mirror. You in the mirror. Nosotros y el espejo. And that feels freaking amazing. When you prove yourself, you're like, I did that for me.
Yeah.
And that's what you did.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That
It's
is
like
very
getting to the
empowering.
point where you're getting all this rejection, all this positive reinforcement because you do have people that are like fighting for you, you know? Like if you would to look back, like what would you say to that girl that was going through those struggles at that moment?
I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't change anything. I look back and I think, regardless of the challenges, these people that were that friction, those barriers, just made me stronger. I think everything that has happened in my life just made me stronger. It's making me the person that I am. I am so grateful for everything that's happened. I'm so grateful of the long journey. I'm so grateful to have had been an intern for 3 years and never gotten paid. You know, I learned
Maybe not
from
that part.
You know, I learned from that. Now, you know, I value myself more. I know my worth. I know who I am, and all of that led me to who I am now, to be the best version of woman, of mother that I can possibly be, a human being.
Sí.
Yeah.
La verdad
So,
que sí.
And let me tell you what made me fall in love with Kiss FM, because I was always a fan since even Rick D's.
Yes.
I
Rick
used-
D's in the
Rick D's
morning.
in the morning. Okay, love Rick D's.
Ya
the whole
dijimos
thing.
la edad.
Oh,
Dime tu
yeah.
edad sin decirme tu edad.
I'm 50 plus. So I started listening to Kiss FM, and I love Kiss FM. And I would listen to it, and I enjoyed it. But when I heard your voice, Patty, that Latina voice that I identified with, I was so freaking happy. I'm like, oh my God, someone like me
Y la entiendo.
on the freaking radio,
Yeah.
my favorite radio station. So that just made me fall in love even more. And I am so thrilled and so happy that I'm sitting right across from you.
Oh, thank
and
you.
now I can put that voice, the face to that voice, finally.
This is it.
So I am like when they told me we know Patty Rodriguez, I said I cannot believe I finally, after all these years, get to meet one of my little idols. And I honestly, like, my hats off to you. I think that you being on air on one of the hottest radio stations in LA really opened up so many doors for everyone. Absolutely.
For more Latinas to want to become
more Latinas.
in the radio.
You just made it possible for others to dream, big.
Yeah.
And listening to your voice, and also you talking about what was going on in the Latino culture.
Yeah.
You brought that to the station. And I just absolutely loved it. You talked about our culture, our foods, during the holidays, so many things.
So Mindy, so when we met in the industry, thanks to radio. Thanks to radio. Well, thanks to TV, I know Janet.
TV and radio.
And obviously through Janet, I know Deep because of
Yeah.
TV. But thanks to the beauty and magic of radio, somos comadres.
Yes.
Mindy y yo, like in la vida real.
Yeah.
But the thing is that she used to work for Warner Music. So, you know, radio, she was
Radio.
the one back in the day to bring the artists at 6
Going
a.m.
to the radio stations,
bringing the
doing all that.
CDs, the new album, the new single,
Yeah.
that was Mindy. So for you, I can see how the magic of Patty bringing hablando de Maná on Kiss FM, hablando de Vicente, hablando de los Bookies.
And no nomás hablando,
right.
having them as guests.
Mana was on the radio.
Yeah, we had Maná,
That
we had
was
Pepe Aguilar, we had
incredible.
Juanes. This is before.
Yes.
Before you would see them on Jay Leno now on Jimmy Fallon's show.
Fallon.
Like, this is way
You
before
opened the
all
door
this.
to that.
Like, I'm
That's why
curious,
I'm
what
like,
did Ryan and the rest
amazing.
of the white gang say about, like, did they say Maná or Maná? Or
It was just fun. And, it was this joy of sharing a piece of who we are and introducing them, and then them saying, understanding the value of these stories and say, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it was different than, say, pitching Jonas Brothers. You kind of have to say, it's the Jonas
Yeah.
Brothers. But if I was pitching Maná, I had to explain who Maná is.
Right.
That was the difference, right? Where I had to do Maná has this many Grammys, these many albums sold. They're, the biggest rock group since the Rolling Stones,
Coming from Mexico, the whole
comparing
thing,
them
yeah.
to something similar to their so that's the difference. Like, if I was pitching the Jonas Brothers, all I had to say was the Jonas Brothers,
Yeah,
right?
they know.
Right.
and they know.
They know.
But
You're like, Vicente Fernandez is like our Frank Sinatra for you
Yeah,
guys.
exactly.
You know?
So
You
again,
had
it's
to
like
do that.
it's always working 3 times, giving giving a little bit more always,
Same.
just for us to have that space.
Feeling like you have to convince them.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
an English speaking
Exactly.
market.
But that's what made the radio station
Yes.
stronger. stronger because we connected.
Y no me rajaba. And I would go back. There was some like, oh, maybe not today. And I would have to go back. And I was like, find a way. And it was just like, I was driven by the challenge of like, it's going to work. It's going to work out.
And then once you got that first one in, you're like, okay, let's work on the next one.
Yeah.
Right? Who's in town?
So
That's
hearing
awesome.
you talk about your radio journey, because there's so many other things we want to talk about. But even right now, earlier when you were talking about when you were breaking those barriers, I couldn't help but notice how you still get emotional. Like your eyes got watery. You like your voice was shaking. Todavía te emociona mucho.
Oh, yeah.
If radio is your life, your first love per se in your professional career, and you feel this cariño infinito, why did you leave radio? We all want to know that. I, being a colleague of you for many years, I was like, ¿por qué se va? No.
Maybe because it was 4 a.m.?
I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
But I know there's many things happening, but still, like, todavía te emocionas.
Oh my God, absolutely.
I know.
And I miss it every single day. But and that's okay to miss it. That doesn't mean that I belong there right now.
Right.
I built a company while I was working there with Ryan after I got pregnant with my first son. And I never imagined this company growing the way it is now. Little Libros, the children's publishing company.
Little Libros! I love it. We love it.
They're
Little
so
Libros.
cute.
If you don't have
thank
Little
you.
I love
Libros
that.
in your house, you are not Latina.
I know.
Latina mom.
And I never imagined it growing the way it's grown. And it's something that I have built with my business partner from, the ground up, and it belongs to my family. And I just felt it was time to give it 100%.
Yeah.
And I also felt that in order for us to grow, we have to let go of things as much as we love them and as much as they mean the love is not going to change. But if we want to grow, we have to let go.
Oh, I love that.
I can relate to that because to this day, people still ask me, why did you leave K-Love?
With those high numbers, the high ratings and all
¿Por qué
that.
dejaste K-Love number one? I mean, she knows that. Everybody knows that. Gracias, Diosito, for making that happen. Pero si es cierto, why after 18 years of being on the morning show, competing with Ryan and beating him a few times. I have to say that. I even have I'm going to show you the poster that I have in
Let me tell you, I would always talk about you to the rest of the team. I'm like, look what they're doing, and I would listen to the show. I would study your show, and I would be like, this is what they're doing, and this, this is
They
what
have mana. We need to have mana.
that's what I would do. I love studying. I love like understanding what other people are doing. It's like, okay, they're doing this. Okay, this is what we should be doing too.
Yeah, no, but it means a lot coming from you because a lo que iba es que even though I love K-Love, I had to let go K-Love to grow because my wings were crashing in that ceiling. O sea, yo quería hacer más, queríamos hacer más y no se podía. There's only so much you can grow. And God gives you the signs. Aquí ya no es. It was. Aquí ya no es. But that doesn't mean I don't love the station. I still listen to K-Love.
Right.
I will always say K-Love is the queen of radios in LA. It's la reina de radios. I don't check ratings anymore, but I still listen to K-Love because it will always be my first love.
But you wanted to be your own boss, right?
I wanted to be my own boss.
You want to do your own thing.
So I can have my own podcast.
No, it's what you just said right now. Your wings, it's like a pot. It's like a plant in a pot. The pot is just too small now, and you have to move the plant into a bigger pot.
Because those roots are just growing.
The roots are going to continue growing, and it needs that space. And that's what I felt. I left the show at a time where I felt like I was just, that connection that I had with our audience and our community was just at its deepest.
Same.
Because I was also at a personal level of myself where I loved myself the most ever in my life. I have gotten to that point where I just felt so confident with myself. It was like I'm just, there was so much light, and I just felt like for me it was just like it wasn't fitting here anymore.
Yeah.
And I needed to just.
And that was hard for you.
It was really hard.
I have a question during that time because there's so many people that have these grand ideas, right? We all have those ideas that come out. And for you it was Little Libros, right? And so you're working full time, waking up super early, doing all these things, and then you have this idea. What would you say is that one thing or maybe multiple things that helped you make it reality and move that idea along,
While being a mom.
While being a mom.
Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
Well, something happened in my life that for anybody, they would say it was the worst thing that could ever happen to anyone. I lost my house to a fire.
Right.
Yikes.
When my son was 3 years old. So I had when he was born, I love reading, I love storytelling, I love children's books. I had the idea of creating bilingual books, like really beautiful, high quality bilingual books. And I sent the idea to some publishers, and they said no. And I was like, well, maybe they're right. Maybe like, who do I think I am, thinking that I'm a writer? And I shelved the idea. Wow. And then when my son turned 3. He was 3 years old. It was his first week at a daycare, and I'm driving home from the radio show. It's like 1 or 2 p.m. and I see all these fire trucks on my block.
Oh no!
And I'm like, oh, what's happening?
Ni por aquí.
No idea. Keep driving, and I'm like, holy shit! They're in front of my house.
Oh.
I leave my car and park in the middle of the street. And I run toward the house, and they're like, "Ma'am, is this your house?" And I'm like, "Yes." And they're like, "We're sorry. We did what we could."
Wow.
Oh no.
And I just collapsed to the ground, and I'm just like,
Everything is lost.
everything. At that moment, it just felt like I was so angry at God. At that moment, I was like, why are you doing this to me? Like, what did I do to deserve this? And I didn't see it at that time, but I went into this really dark place those first few weeks where I was mourning something, and I couldn't quite understand what it was. I felt very vulnerable and raw, and I started questioning myself. I was like, I could have been inside the house, and that's it. And that's it. Patty Rodriguez is gone. Or, and I wouldn't have been able to leave anything for my son. Not even a fucking dollar. I was like overdrafted in my bank account like $100 maybe that morning. I'm like, qué vergüenza. Me hubiera muerto yo en la casa ahí y no le dejo ni un pinche 5 a mi hijo. I'm not breaking any generational curses here. Like that. How am like? What are you thinking, Patty? And what is your legacy? And like, what are you doing for your community? What are you doing?
You had like a come to Jesus moment.
Yeah,
Like,
I think I did.
on?
I was just like yelling at myself in the mirror. I'm like, get it together. Wake up.
Wow.
I'm like, this was God telling you. You're not listening to me, Patty. So I'm going to have to strip you away from everything that's blinding you.
Wow. That's powerful.
Maybe also because you were doing so much, so fast, maybe stretching yourself too thin. Like it was the way to stop the brakes.
Yeah.
Before something really bad would happen to you and your son.
Yeah, I sat myself down and I talked to myself and I was like, you're going to figure out a way to build something for your children and for your family and for your community. I don't know how you're going to do it, but you're going to find a way. And I'm in the process of clearing out the whatever's left of my belongings. And when I had the idea of the books, I had created a makeshift book of what I thought this book would look like if it ever came to be.
To fruition.
Yeah. And inside this plastic box that was half melted, it was inside there.
Oh no.
Kind of like all like stuck together.
But it survived.
It's like
made
pieces
it.
of it survived.
Wow.
And I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And I have to find a way to do it.
Wow.
You were reading the signs.
The signs were there.
I was just like, God, you have to, like, God, like, I'm like, there's a reason why you did this. And I'm going to just surrender. And you're going to lead me to it. And I called my best friend. And I said, look, I've been working on this idea for a few years. And I can't do it alone. And I would love for you to be part of it. And she's like, let's do it.
Oh my God, your bestie. Your best friend from elementary?
From junior high.
Oh my God.
Ariana Stein.
Oh,
Ariana
yeah.
Stein.
Wonderful. That's great.
What the
great
power of
story.
friends, right?
Yes.
I know.
I think what you just said, I mean, I literally could go and look through the camera and see it makes me emotional. There are so many women out there that feel the same way you just said, that want to build something for themselves, that maybe feel stuck, that maybe had a really big dramatic thing happen to them. And like to hear you say what you just said and find your space and find that hope is so inspiring. Really, truly, without you even trying, you're trying to help your family. But like right now, I know there's somebody out there listening that's going to say, you know what? Basta.
Yeah.
Like, look at yourself in the mirror and just say, basta. What are we going to do for myself? I'm going to need to focus on what I can do for myself. And that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And then the next thing that you said is what happened? How did you move that along? You brought your friend along. And I think that is a beautiful thing because things move along when you bring your friends along.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
When you have friends
knew-
like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are here doing this together.
Comadres,
Yes.
that's exactly
You know,
what happened with
you
us.
can't do anything alone. You need allies. You need friends. You
So
need each
true.
other. And
Especially after tragedy,
Yeah.
after something life-changing happens.
Oh,
it's so great.
and that fire was the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
It's crazy that you say that now.
greatest thing.
Greatest
Yeah.
thing. But see, you need faith and you need fear because obviously we're afraid always to make a new move
Absolutely.
or start all over again. You're right. Do I
Sometimes
have
we need that push.
Do I
Yeah.
have it? Do I have what it takes? Pero faith over fear is my
Yeah.
motto. Faith over fear because fear is always
Yes.
going to be there.
Yes.
And I love your motto, sin miedo. Tienes toda la
Sin
razón. Hay que hacer las cosas sin miedo. But I always say, even con todo y miedo, porque fuck it. Like,
Yeah.
el miedo, you just have to use it as gasoline. Like that. You either
Acknowledge it that you have
that it's
it.
there, but you're either going to decide, is fear going to stop me from building up again or from starting a new business or from breaking that toxic relationship? Or is it going to push me to actually let go and start all over again? So that's really where the work begins. And
Yeah.
obviously you chose to work with fear, but I love your motto, sin miedo. Conmigo es con todo y miedo. It's a part of a natural, that's how God made us. It's an emotion that we can't fight.
No, it's you know, they can tell you it's your body protecting you. It's but to me it's not protecting you. It's your body telling you that there's growth on the other side of this feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what your body's telling you. You're this plant in this pot that you're in. You've outgrown it.
Yeah.
So I need to give you a feeling that you identify as it's time
And
to
it
move
was
to a
time.
bigger pot.
And it was
And that's
time.
what fear is.
Yeah, exactly.
What is it? If your dream isn't big enough, it's not. You don't have fear,
Yeah,
right? You
or-
need a bigger
yeah.
dream. If you're not in fear,
just not
you
big
need a bigger
enough.
dream.
It's not
If
big
you're not
enough.
scared, your dream's not. It's just
It's not big enough.
big
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And our bodies always protect us from that. If you notice, they want us to be comfortable.
Yeah, our bodies want us to be comfortable, but but God didn't create us to be comfortable. God created us in His image. God created us to be bigger.
That's
And
right.
to be of service in anything that we do.
Yes.
That's why we're here, to share with each other, like, wait a minute, I went through this and I was able to get through it.
Yes.
And you can too. I am showing you by being here, by sharing my story with you, that you can do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned be of service. So you leave radio because you're going to fully, te vas a entregar a tu compañía Little Libros, which is doing magnificent, obviously, because it's grown now that you're like invested 100%. But the fact that you allow the community now to be a part of the company that you started because of a fire. And we're talking about LA fires right now because I know that you also, talking about community, you started your own fund and your own movement focusing on domestic workers, but we'll get to that right now. But let's talk generational wealth because you've talked about your boys, que les voy a dejar a ellos, ni un pinche dólar les voy a dejar, but now look at, you're going to leave them a freaking company. Generational wealth. I have to admit something, Patty, me da tanta pena decirte esto, but before you brought up that topic a few years ago, I did not know what that meant. When you started talking about generational wealth, I was like, what is that? Let me Google it.
Yeah.
And then you started giving these little, like, cute videos, like you would record stuff and then you would go live and you no entendía. And I called you and I said, can you give me a one-on-one on this? Because what is generational wealth? We didn't grow up hearing that term.
No, not at all.
No.
So let's talk about what you've created and what you've started, because thanks to you, a lot of people watching now want to know, and they're actually part of your company.
Yes, absolutely. And generational wealth, I mean, it has a lot of, it can mean a lot of things, but in what we're sharing here right now, it means creating a legacy for your family that you will pass on to your children and then your children's children. It could be in real estate, in investments, essentially a foundation for them where they're not starting at the bottom. So it's about being intentional. Given that, I am a daughter of immigrants. My dad was a farm worker. My mom, God love her, she worked so many jobs and many hours. These conversations were never had at home. Investing, that's a word that I only learned after the fire. So I was online. Well, I was scrolling on Instagram and I found this guy talking about investing in stocks. So I just picked up the phone and I called him.
Patty style.
I was just like, I want to know what the heck this is, because it sounds too good to be true. You're telling me that if I buy a piece of a company and I leave that money there, it's going to grow?
Without you doing anything else.
Yeah, just
buy that stock and let it sit there.
Just let it sit there. So you're telling me that every time I buy a pair of Nikes, I'm making the stock owners richer? And you're telling me that I could be a stock owner? So when I buy Nikes, not only am I making the company richer, I'm making myself richer too? And he's like, yeah, pretty much. Why hasn't anyone told us this?
Exactly.
That's right.
He's like, because they want to keep it that way.
Yeah.
A certain group.
And that is what, we briefly touched, but financial literacy, right?
Yeah.
Because now you want to build this company, and we didn't grow up like that.
No.
We didn't grow up knowing anything about money and we had a save. Our community, our big
mattress.
savers
Under the mattress.
under the mattress.
I took
Totally.
I took-
Credit union, that's it, that kind of thing.
Or
Yeah.
just being
at all.
afraid of the banks because they're
Yeah,
going to
the
take
bank.
your money.
Right.
That
Exactly.
fear.
Yeah.
Like you want the money closer to you in the jacket under the mattress because
Totally.
that's where it's safe.
Well, I
My
grew up
parents had
thinking.
no bank account.
I grew
That's
up
crazy.
exactly. Our parents didn't have a bank account, and I grew every time in San Pedro. I grew up in San Pedro, the first part of my infant childhood, and we always pass a bank on 3rd Street. Y le decía, mamá, ¿qué es ahí? Dice, eso es para ricos. And I grew up
for the
thinking
wealthy.
that. I grew up thinking a bank is for rich people. We don't save our money there. And honestly, de verdad, my first bank account was until I got to college.
Yeah.
That's when it really started. Like, oh, I get a credit
Totally.
card. Like, oh, checking. I felt so important with the checkbook. Honestly, because even so, I took economy. And I still didn't understand stocks. Like right now, you explain it so
economics.
beautifully, and I still didn't understand it at all.
But we
No le
talked
entendí
about
ni
this. I was a
papas.
math major at UCLA, and I studied econ. That's not financial literacy. You are understanding what is happening, but you don't understand your role in it. And so I think for you, I just heard just even you're starting it and like just picking up a phone and asking questions is so powerful. And then, you have other people that can like teach you more,
Yeah,
right?
and then I just needed kind of like this conversation. And it was just one phone call. I don't even remember the guy's name. But I was just like, I appreciate you so much. You gave me the foundation of like to even start. So I started just Googling and figuring it out. And I'm like, okay, I need a brokerage account. I need an account so I can buy stocks. And during this time, in the last 10 years, being an investor and ownership of stocks has become a lot easier with this technology now. So now it's attainable, and it just felt okay. It doesn't feel intimidating because you could just open an account online.
Sí.
So I opened a brokerage account, had no idea what I was doing, and the fear, I can still feel it in my bones of moving a few $1,000s from my savings account to this account.
Do I do it?
It felt like I was getting stabbed. Like my heart. Yeah, I was like,
Am I gonna lose it? Right?
yeah, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Thought.
And it's like, okay. And then I remember the guy he said to me, just buy stocks from companies that you love. Okay, I'm like, okay, that's easy enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so I remember it's like, okay, I got Netflix. I had a PayPal account. I'm like, okay, PayPal.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. And then I was like, okay, this is easy. And then I think I just left the money there.
Sí.
And I feel so proud. I feel like a kid, like just coming out of a candy store. Like I had unlocked the mysteries of life. And I was like, I have to tell the entire world about this.
Your
Like,
people.
Yes.
and I
Stockholder.
immediately went on Instagram and I was like, you guys won't believe what I just found the secret. And this is it. This is what they haven't told us. And this is generational wealth. And I was sharing this information. I was still afraid of it, because I still wasn't I wasn't understanding it. And I was like, I can't be afraid. I have to figure it out for my kids, for myself, blah, blah, blah. And I have to. And then I think what was happening is opportunities just started opening up when you are open to things that you don't know.
Yes.
When you're open to just saying, to admit that you don't know, like, I have no idea what this is.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It's okay. No one's born knowing anything. Let me figure it out.
Yeah.
I need to give my family. I need to leave something behind for my family. My kids are gonna have a foundation. They're not gonna have to struggle the way I struggled. It's like it's gonna be easy. Like I am not ashamed that if I'm gonna prepare them so they can buy their first home, because that's what a parent should do.
Sí.
Yes.
That's why we're their parents.
Yeah.
And that's what every
teachers.
parent you
Yeah.
ask would want the same thing from for their child.
Sí.
To lay the foundation for them.
My mom always says, los hijos están para superarnos.
Sí.
It's always improving the generations, like to have a little bit more. But I always tell my mom, pero superamos gracias a ti.
Yeah.
Because you're the
On their
foundation.
backs,
Like
for
we're on your
sure.
shoulder now. Porque
Absolutely.
tú tuviste que trabajar de 12 a 6 de la mañana, like graveyard shift, ride on buses till this day. My mom rides buses. I mean, your sacrifices, because of that, I'm able to you're right, have a better life that now I'm going to give you, right?
Absolutely.
But you're right. I mean, lo que acabas de decir, it gives me chills because I never thought I would be an investor until I heard you talking about generational wealth. I was like, oh, I'm going to do my research.
Yes.
And then I called up the source. I picked up the phone. Patty, we need to talk. Educate me. Pero es bonito porque ahora vemos estos libros. It started with an idea of a half-burnt book. And now we see your company, Target, Kohl's, and so many other.
a lot of beautiful
everywhere
books.
online, and not just books. Like the other day, I opened up the website and I was like, "Oh my gosh,
It's expanded.
it's Little Libros exploded!"
Yeah, puzzles. And
You
board
started with
games.
how many books?
3 books.
3
How many now?
We have over 100.
Oh
Can
my
you believe
gosh,
it?
amazing.
That deserves
wow, that deserves a bell. Cowbell, please. More
And I'm
cowbell.
very proud of our
is
team.
awesome.
We've created the most beautiful books, and we take our time with every single book. It's like, you know what? We're scrappy, we're small, but that doesn't mean we can't do the best work. You know,
And you're telling our stories.
Yeah, and it all started, when Target actually came to us within 6 months after we started the company.
Oh my god.
They wanted, they were just like, who's the publisher? Like, it's us. No, really, who's the publisher? Like, it's us.
Yeah,
And they just couldn't believe it. It's like,
they're so beautiful. Your first book, Selena?
no, it was the Loteria board book, Frida board book, and Emiliano Zapata
Emiliano
board book.
Zapata.
Oh
That's right.
my goodness.
And I discovered them on Target. I was like,
Cutest
wait,
thing
she
ever.
made it happen.
Yes.
Because you were pregnant when I saw you the first time at a convention, the book fair, I guess it was. And you were selling your books on air, pregnant, and on the weekends, selling your books at the convention center. I'll never forget that day. And then I saw him at Target, and I was like, she made it happen.
And at lunchtime investing.
Can you? I know. It's incredible. What do your kids say? Because I know that you like to share a lot of their reactions when you showcase them at a new store. So I've seen you do that a lot.
I think I just love that they don't know any other life than the life of going after your dreams no matter what. Because they see that with their mother.
Yeah.
That's, to me, the greatest thing that I could give them. It's just like, whatever it is that your heart desires, you can do it. And that's what separates us a lot from from the folks who are fluent, they never take no for an answer. That's why they're living the lives that we dream about, right? It's just not taking no for an answer. That's the secret.
Yeah.
And and figuring it out. And that's what I tell my kids. There's always a way. There's always a way. Pick up the phone, call. There's no shame. And I'm like, there's no shame in knowing and not knowing. I always ask, I tell them, make as many mistakes as you can make today. Please, just make them. Like, don't be afraid of making mistakes.
It's a learning lesson.
Right.
That's a great message for
I
everyone,
always
right?
tell my
Never
kids.
give up. If one door closes, the other one will open, and just not to give up.
And it's okay. And it will always work out, no matter how bad you feel at that moment. Just surrender.
Yeah.
And it'll work out.
Patty, can I ask how your parents feel about everything that you've accomplished? I mean, they must
my
be so
my
proud.
mom, she always, I think out of protection, she was like, you need to finish school. You need to go to college. You can't be playing around over there in Burbank. I think it was just out of protection, right?
Yeah.
I think
Right.
it was
Así
that
son las
fear.
mamás
Yes,
latinas.
And not
they are.
understanding.
Ten cuidado,
you know,
mija.
they didn't
Yeah,
understand
they're
that
And
right.
world.
education, right? They
Yes,
want. They really push it
education
for
and
that.
a
I think
job.
it's everything.
Yes.
Well, you were so young. I could see why she would be a little bit fearful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm her oldest, and there was always a lot of tears, but she would always say, you know what, whatever you want, we'll figure it out. And now she says that's not true, that we never butted heads, that she was always like approving of everything.
Yeah.
But I think she's so proud and so happy, and it was all because of her.
Yeah.
You know, like all her sacrifices and the times she would come home and tired, and she'd sit down and with me and do my homework and make sure that I did it right. And she'd buy books, and even though she didn't even know the language, she'd just sit down and pretend to read to us.
I know, that was so common, huh? A ver, enséñame tu tarea. Déjala reviso.
Hace bien.
Todo bien,
Ah,
todo bien.
you don't even understand. Yes, pero it's them wanting to be
Yeah.
a part of it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Their authority.
Yeah.
Is mama. I'm never going to forget one thing you shared on social media, and you made me cry, and hopefully I won't cry, because every time I remember this, I'm like, oh, I can't believe I never did this before, until Patty brought it up. You interviewed your mom and your dad, I believe, and you asked them, ¿cuál era tu sueño cuando eras niño o niña? And it got me so bad, because I realized then that I had never asked my mom, "Mamá, ¿cuál era su sueño de niña?"
I've never asked my mom.
And I felt so guilty. I felt like the worst daughter in the world. Like, because of you, I'm this and I did that. And no puedo creer that I was so selfish, worrying about me having the first one to go to college and the first one to buy a car for the family. I never stopped to ask my mom, like, what was your dream when you were little? Because in 6th grade, I'm Argelia Tilano. When I grow up, I want to be a lawyer. You know, like what was my mom's dream?
And what was it?
And so 2 years ago, I started my own podcast. Necesitaba escucharlo con Argelia Tilano, and I had her as a guest.
Oh.
And I asked her for the very first time. I can't believe I'm crying again. Mamá, ¿cuál era su sueño cuando era niña?
And your voice broke, right?
Of course, because I was like, qué vergüenza de hija. Until now, I'm asking you. But my mom, her face lit up. And she became that little girl again. And she literally looked at me. Y se puso tan contenta. She forgot about the mic and she said, mija, pues donde yo vengo, no hay oficios. We're from San Juan dos Lagos, Jalisco. Un pueblito. Yo soñaba con ser secretaria.
Wow.
Porque yo veía en las novelas que las secretarias llegaban bien vestiditas y que les llevaban el café al jefe. For her, that was the dream.
Wow, to be a secretary.
Y le dije, ¿por qué no lo hizo? Pues porque mi papá no me dejó. Que porque no, las secretarias vienen siendo las amantes de los jefes y no, tú no vas a ser secretaria, tú vas a estudiar costura.
Wow.
And my mom ended up studying,
Sewing and
costura,
all that.
sewing, all that, which, it ended up working for her years later, because she ended up like recycling clothes for it, because we didn't have time, we didn't have money to go to no estrenábamos on first day of school. So my mom I would get the hand-me-downs, but she would fix them, thanks to that. But I want to thank you for asking that question, because I think a lot of us forget that our parents had dreams,
And
girls.
they were once
Had
little
dreams.
kids
Yeah.
with dreams.
Yeah.
And I was so scared to ask my dad that question. I didn't want to ask it.
Oh, wow.
And in the podcast, I share why. I think it wasn't because it was because I was not afraid of what he was going to say, but afraid of how I was going to feel after he said it. That I was going to hurt. Because I felt like, what a selfish you've been for never asking once. It's always about their, like you mentioned, it's always about their sacrifices and what they've done for us. But it's never like, they were also little kids with dreams.
Yeah. I know.
And
We forget.
We forget, and our girls now see us fulfilling our dream. Really, I think it's this generation. I mean, we're all kind of on the same page. We have we're raising tweens and teens, and
all of
it's
us.
so important for our kids to see us live our dream, because doing this is a dream for us, obviously. And right now I'm not home because I know I'm doing my dream at 6 o'clock almost. Mom, they know mom is doing her dream. Like she owns her own production company. She's her own boss. She can come home whenever she wants. Yes, I can. But honestly, it's a beautiful thing for our kids to see that. The challenge is, will they value it as much as we valued, the sacrifices of our parents, which is a thing that concerns me a bit sometimes.
and they will when I say it's ensuring that they don't just see you living the dream. It's that they see you facing the challenges that come with living your dream.
And sharing those challenges.
And sharing those
Yes.
challenges and letting them know. And then seeing it, I'm in the car and I'm driving and they hear when I'm in, making phone calls and they hear it.
It's your office.
And they're asking questions. What's going on, Mom? This is happening at the office. Da, 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 da. But it's okay because we have a plan. So it's like, and that's how it is. You just tackle it immediately and you move on to the next thing.
And they see us doing this.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
yesterday and
what
every day.
they're going to get from this. That whatever they want to do, it's easy. It's not impossible. Because all they have to do is just be okay with the challenges and the roadblocks, and okay that it's all, life is messy. Life is not supposed to be easy. Life is hard, but it's not impossible.
Well, I read a beautiful line saying that within the word impossible is the word possible. Within the word impossible is the word possible.
It's in there.
It reminds you.
Yeah.
When we say it's impossible, quita la y la m, it's possible. You just gotta figure it out, just like you figured out after the fire. Which to wrap up this episode, that's what we're still going through, right? With Rise Up LA is what we started, and I know that you started a beautiful campaign to raise funds for domestic workers.
No, I love that.
Yes.
And so tell us about that, because we want to help if it's still like an ongoing thing. Like we are still not even in the middle of it. Like
The beginning.
this is the beginning, and we don't want people to forget that the help is still much needed.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
absolutely. As
ongoing.
someone that lost a house to a fire, I completely understand what so many families are feeling. My fire was an isolated incident. This is at a scale never seen before in this city. But nonetheless, I understand the pain, the isolation, that rawness and vulnerability and shame that these families feel. And this is something, it's years of recovery. And we can't forget that. And it's not just the people that lost their homes. There's so many people that depended on these homes for their livelihood, talking about domestic workers, nannies, cooks, and from restaurants,
Live-ins, everything.
yes, gardeners, landscapers.
Yes.
You're hearing stories of people losing 30, 40 clients in the Palisades.
Yeah.
And it's like
Their businesses.
yeah,
just-
and
Yes.
like where you're
Done.
not gonna get those clients back for 5 years because those homes it's gonna take that long if they get rebuilt.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then Altadena, the Eaton fire is another situation, very different from Palisades, but right there we want people to not lose their piece of land.
Yeah.
That's what we want them to, but not like, how do we tell them don't sell
Right.
when we're not in their shoes? That's the
Right.
tough
Yeah,
part.
that's and it's a challenge, and I know there's coalitions of people right now working on trying to find a way. Like, we're not telling you not to sell, but be mindful of who you sell.
Mm-hmm.
You know, be mindful that the majority of the people still want Altadena to be Altadena, and they want a full recovery of what the essence of that community. And it's like, okay, if you're gonna sell, which many people are, and they're in the right, but it's like, be mindful of who you're selling to, because there's just so many. This is an opportunity
Predators, for sure.
Predators, yeah.
And corporations just trying to take over so they can build, big,
Yeah.
modern buildings, and then take away all that beautiful culture that was built there for so long.
But it's not impossible, and it's just about community and being intentional and just thinking about your legacy. I think always
It's all about legacy. Legacy.
So true.
So it being Women's Month, March. Well, we're gonna ask you these final questions. First of all, what is left for Patty Rodriguez to do? Like, is there something? Is the list still long? I mean, there's still things you need to pin down, and are you still
What's the
working
next
on,
big dream?
Yeah, like what's next for you, Patty? Because
next
trust
big
me, right
step.
now, so many comadritas are being inspired by your story.
Yes.
I've been inspired for many, many years, and that's why you're here. And so we continue to be inspired by your resilience, which is another of my questions. Like, what is resilience to you? What does that mean for you?
What is resilience? My gosh, it's just getting up and everything. It's knowing that while you're still breathing, that it's okay. It's not. I think we tend to put so much emphasis at things that don't matter, and that requires energy, as opposed to shifting that energy and moving it toward building and creating the life that you want. Which creating the life that you want can start immediately right now, this second, and it's by shifting your mindset. That's all it takes. If you decide that if you think life is bad and it's against you, that's exactly what life's going to give you. If you choose right now after this conversation, say, you know what? Life is the most beautiful thing. Thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. Thank you that I'm here, that I'm breathing, that I'm experiencing this gift.
Yes.
Then God and the universe will just gift you.
Daikita.
And
Yes,
just give
I
you
love
what
that.
you want. It's just like, here, more and more. You're like, God, it's just like an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah.
Like, God, you could tell people like, God, stop giving me too many things.
Yeah, but cuando digo,
Amen.
cuando
Es
digo
tener
que
fe.
quita porque te va a dar otra cosa.
Yes.
Like, but we don't see it at right?
No, we
Because
don't.
we're always questions us, ¿por qué me pasa a
Absolutely.
mí esto? Why me? Why me? Why me? Well, maybe because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Just
He's
be
paving the
patient.
way.
It's not
Paving
even,
the way.
it's not about quitar, no está quitando. It's like you're done with this part of who
Chapter.
you are.
Yeah.
You're moving on.
You're
'Cause
shifting.
You're a plant.
And
You're
that
growing.
applies to friendships and relationships.
everything.
Yes.
Everything.
Right? Because we
yeah.
question ourselves like, what happened to this friend? I don't
Personally,
know, maybe
professionally.
the cycle
Yeah.
That's
the
so
cycle
true.
came full circle, and it's time to move on to a different cycle, even with friends and partners.
Yeah, or like,
Yeah.
la
Or a job.
The girl at work me vio mal. Te vio mal? Or is that what you chose to see?
Yeah.
What about if you shift that mentality to like, me vio, and I move on with my life?
Sí.
You're like, why are you carrying that negativity about this woman que te vea mal? Pues que te vea mal.
Yeah.
Volteate y ya.
Yeah, turn
Let
around.
them. Let
Que te vea
them.
mal.
Yes.
Yeah, that, what do they say? Like, you're not taking control of me. Like, I'm taking control of the moment.
Yes.
Well,
So-
nobody can make you
I
feel
volteo.
anything that you don't allow them to.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And so
You're
I've
giving
always
it
said this to
power.
my kids, and I
have,
say,
yeah.
yeah, you're giving it power. But if somebody's speaking a different language that you don't understand, that's you don't understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
That has no bearing on what just happened to you. You can only feel what you allow others
You
to penetrate
choose.
yourself.
You choose.
Yes,
Yeah.
you
no
choose.
one's doing anything to
To
you.
you.
No one. You are choosing
Sí.
those thoughts and those ideas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. They're all thoughts that we control.
Yes.
We should be able to control. Unfortunately, not a lot of people have that capacity until you decide to work on you.
Yes.
And that's where therapy
Self-awareness.
kicks in. Thank
yes.
you very much.
Yes.
I've said it here. I'm finally on therapy,
Yes.
and it has helped me to work on myself because you're right. I was that person. I know, but ¿qué le hice? You know what?
And then you
Let
worry.
me work on
You worry
me.
so much.
I can. That's her
Yeah.
problem
Yes.
or his
Let
problem.
them. Let them
Algo
do
traen,
their
no quiero esa
thing.
nube negra, you know. But
And most of the time, it's never about you.
yeah.
It's not.
It's in our
never
head.
about you.
It's about them.
It
You know,
is.
they
It's
probably are
always
having a
them.
bad day. They're probably,
Yeah.
fighting with their spouse, and then they're also a wounded child, just like you are.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they're just lashing out because you're in front of them.
That's showing
And
empathy. What you're saying.
And if you
right now.
have
Yeah.
the capability to understand that, it's just like, you know what? Let them. It's not me. I'm not the problem. They're also a wounded child in this world, just like we all are.
So
Patty,
let go.
I have a question for you. If you could write a book, you write book for children, but what about a book about your life? Or what if you wrote a book about you, what would it be for? Like to inspire people, financial literacy, investing, what would you write a book about?
I thought about this question a lot, and I don't, because there's so many things that I want to share. I wouldn't even, right now at this moment, I don't know what this book would be about, but I'm open, and I've asked God to just send me what I need to do, because I do want to write a book written by me.
Yes.
And maybe it's a work of fiction, this a story that I have inside. Maybe it's a self-help book. I don't know what that looks like, but I've asked God, I'm like, God, I'm gonna just let you, just like you've done my whole life. I've just taken a back seat. You're the driver. And it'll just figure itself out. I go to bed not worried.
Because you have so many great stories that you've shared today. I know that you've interviewed your parents and you've done a podcast also about immigrant stories.
Same.
I just think you have such a wealth of knowledge.
thank you.
So I encourage you to get a book out there, something written
It's
by
time,
you.
right? Because
Yes.
you're with Simero Productions. You do cuentas esas historias.
Yeah.
Pero sí, people
Yes.
wanna I know this episode is gonna be one of the most popular ones. I'm saying it already.
Yes.
because of your story, which you're truly an inspiration.
Yes.
You've opened your heart and your soul, and because you've shared with us that you asked yourself one day, what can I do for my community? And you never imagined in your wildest dreams when you asked God that day when you were mad that you would not only not open doors, but you were going to build bridges for the next generation. And that's your legacy. That is a beautiful legacy. A lot of people say, drop the mic, I'm done. If you decide to drop the mic now, I mean, it's like, what has Patty done already, which is historic. But I cannot even imagine todo lo que te falta por entregar. Because I know that Simero Productions has a lot of great ideas out there, and I cannot wait to see. And I told you one day, I cannot wait to see one of your productions on Netflix. I called it out. Universo. Imagine
gosh.
that. I get the chills knowing that I want
done.
to see it. It's done.
It's done.
All right.
I mean, what else is there to do, Patty?
I don't know. I think right now I'm just so happy seeing my children becoming the young men that they're becoming. I am glowing at the way I see them and the way they're approaching life and seeing life and their kindness. And I look at my kids and I'm like, I don't know why God chose me to be your mother. I'm just the luckiest mom. You guys are the greatest gift and I tell them every single day. And I'm just like, I'm just so lucky. I don't know how lucky. I don't know how this happened.
And can I ask a personal question?
Yes.
Are you a single mom? I want to know because it sounds like you're raising these amazing boys. And then on top of that, you're this entrepreneur. You're just, so many different
I have
cats.
a community.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it takes a village. It takes a village.
Yes.
It really does.
Amazing.
It does
It is,
take
oh,
a
yes.
village.
It does
Yes.
take a village. So
Partner or no
I can't
partner.
take credit. I'm not doing this alone. It
Yeah.
takes a wonderful village, and my kids are loved.
I mean, Diana and I
amazing.
know that because
Yes.
I was married for 11.5 years and I
Yeah.
got divorced. So yeah, single mom, working really hard.
Yes.
Diana also has her story, divorce.
Recently
and now-
divorced and
now
same thing.
she's,
And partner or no partner, it does
yeah.
take a community.
It does take a
Yes.
community.
Huge village to do what we do. And you shared your story of, I know that we're wrapping up the episode, but you shared your story of how everything came to be. And now you're talking about your boys, and we just talked about raising very different kids than we were, right? We're not raising ourselves. What would you tell 10-year-old Patty?
I don't want to tell her anything because I don't want anything to change. I love myself, and it took a long time to get here. And I just want to continue loving that little girl. I've been doing these exercises at home where I close my eyes and I go see this little girl. And recently, and before, and in my first initial sessions, I would talk to her. Now I'm not talking to her. Now I'm just looking.
You are looking because you just shared Patty in her first communion. And that is a beautiful picture.
Oh, that was so cute.
Like you were destined for greatness. And little Patty had no idea.
She did.
Oh, she did have.
She did.
She did.
She always knew.
She always knew.
We do. We always know. I'm in this journey of understanding who we are in our consciousness, and I really believe that the dreams that we have and the ideas that we have, it's just a version of our future selves telling us, this is what's happening for you in this, and if you listen to this my voice, this is where I'm going to take you. So we choose, right? So when we have a dream or an idea, we choose to either take it or we allow our fear to keep us and hold us back. In my case, I chose it regardless of the fear.
Yes.
And now that I look back at that, it was like it was me right now talking to my 10-year-old self and planting those seeds.
See.
So it's like now when I go back and I have these sessions with my 10-year-old self, I don't talk to her because I already talked to her when I was 10.
Yes.
And that's why I am who I am right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I listened to that voice. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No,
Am
it
I
makes
talking
total sense.
crazy?
There's something inside of us.
Right.
There's something inside of us that's super resilient that says, I know I can do better.
And that's your future
and
self
that's your-
talking to you.
Well, the way I see it now at 50, ahora que acabo de cumplir 50 años, I used to think that, es que ahora soy otra. Ya no soy la de ayer. And we talked about it. Ya no soy la misma de ayer, pero no la misma de antes, right? But I realized at 50 that I am still the 5-year-old, the 10-year-old. I'm bringing the 15-year-old with the hoops. I'm bringing the 25-year-old making mistakes, falling out of love and in love again. And we're carrying all these Angelitas, Janis, Dianas, and Mindy's, and they're here.
They're here, and they're always gonna. And not just ours, but we're talking about our ancestors too. We are a living, breathing being, a culmination of our ancestors who have survived and who had dreams and hopes, and you're just leading that. Yeah. The dream hasn't ended; it continues with you. The dream that your great grandmother had. And it didn't end. You're carrying the baton.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that's what's happening here. Like this cosmic, you're a cosmic self of 1 million humans that were once walking and breathing here. You're just part of that.
Yeah.
You're just it's you.
And if you keep going.
Yeah, you keep going.
I love that.
Your great grandmother's
future
dreams.
generations. Yes.
It continues.
that's beautiful.
I think that ties in everything that you just said. Is just keep going.
It hasn't stopped because you're
love
still
that.
here.
Yeah.
And there's and it's because our ancestors, regardless of what was happening, they chose to get through it and survive. And that's why we're here.
We're here, and
because they got through it.
they got
they
through
made
it.
that decision
We
to
will
keep
get
going.
through it
Yes.
too, and it's a beautiful message to finish the episode on women's, Women's Month, our month. Qué bonito mensaje, right? I mean, all comadritas watching and hearing. We have to take a look at everything that you've said, we've shared today. What a beautiful message to see that. I never saw it that way. So
It's not a
love
metaphor.
that.
I know. It's in our
blood. It's in our DNA.
You
todo.
touch me,
Sí.
and I touch you, and this is your ancestors here
Yeah.
in every atom of you.
Yes.
In every cell.
Sí.
This is 1,000 people that you're carrying inside you.
That's powerful,
Yeah.
girls. It is
love that.
powerful.
That
It
is
is
very
beautiful.
powerful.
It is
Wow.
unique. And thank you, Patty. De verdad.
Ay,
We have to
thank
end
you.
this episode
I'm
with
like, wow.
with your motto. Sin miedo.
Sin miedo.
Sin miedo.
No fear.
Comadritas.
Go
Cheers.
Get 'em.
Go get
Sin
'em.
miedo. Hoy, mañana.
Sin miedo.
Y
Miedo.
siempre.
A
Thank you,
todo.
Patty.
Sin
¡Viva
miedo.
los chinganas!
Yay!
Woo. We love you, comadritas.
Love you.
See you next time. Thanks for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love to see your reviews and hear your thoughts. You can also follow Comadres Unfiltered on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook for more updates. New episodes every Tuesday. Until next time, comadritas.